Salve Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "Things that cause sin will inevitably occur, but woe to the one through whom they occur. It would be better for him if a millstone were put around his neck, and he be thrown into the sea, than for him to cause one of these little ones to sin. Be on your guard. If your brother sins, rebuke him. And if he repents, forgive him. And if he wrongs you 7 times in one day and returns to you 7 times saying, 'I'm sorry,' you should forgive him." And the apostles said to the Lord, "Increase our faith." The Lord replied, "If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you would say to this mulberry tree, 'Be uprooted and planted in the sea,' and it would obey you." The Gospel of the Lord. The Book of Wisdom reminds us that justice for the Christian, and this was for the Old Testament people as well, but for the Christian, justice without faith doesn't work as far as we're concerned. Without faith, justice deteriorates into what's good for me and how I can legally arrange what is good for me at your expense, if necessary. It becomes void of conscience. It becomes void especially of charity. And so the Book of Wisdom, talking about integrity of heart and discernment, calls the faithful to look with eyes of faith into matters of justice. To the point where it says here, you don't ignore something that's wrong. That would be called a sin of omission. It's addressed, but when someone's seeking reconciliation and mercy according to faith, it must be given, in spite of what social conventions tell us. I was reminded of a man I met a number of years ago when I was reading this. A man of great faith. His next-door neighbor raped his daughter. And on a technicality, there were no charges, but it was obvious that the crime was committed. And he was left completely free without any consequences because of a technicality. So this man stewed and stewed and stewed in anger, couldn't help himself. In his mind, plotting and conniving. Because of his faith, his neighbor did not get any retribution from him, but it wasn't an easy thing for him. And one day in prayer, he heard very clearly, "You're not acting like a good Christian. You need to forgive that man. Your life is in his life is in your hands." He couldn't believe what he was hearing in prayer and internally argued with God. I can't do that. However, one day, he was so stirred that he had to get this out of his system. He was so bothered in his conscience. He just had to get this out of his system. So he crossed the street to the next door neighbor who was mowing his lawn. And, of course, the neighbor thought there was going to be some kind of violent attack. And he got scared and he said, "No, I want to talk. I want you to know that I have forgiven you." The man was so moved that within a few days he went to talk to his local Baptist pastor. He was a Baptist. The man that I knew was a Catholic. He went to talk to his Baptist pastor. Tearful repentance. Found a loving community there who embraced him. And about a year later, after having become very active and obviously very repentant in that church, he died suddenly of a heart attack. And the man that I knew who forgave him said, ironically enough, I helped get that guy to heaven. This is the kind of justice that faith metes out.
Regina Celi, letare